Hey, everybody, it's Bryan Kemper from Staying True, Pro-Life Outreach, the youth outreach of Priests for Life, and you are watching Pro-Life is the New Punk Rock. Now, I've been doing this show for a few months now, and we named the show Pro-Life is the New Punk Rock, knowing that my new book, Pro-Life is the New Punk Rock, right here, came out this last week. ProLifeProducts.org, ProLifeProducts.org. You can order a copy of Pro-Life is the New Punk Rock. It's sort of my life story and my journey in helping to build the youth pro-life movement. So the way that this show works is I like to have a lot of different guests on that are involved now or involved in the past and the work that I've been doing or different aspects of the pro-life movement. And my next guest is a young man who I've known since, I believe, junior high school. He was in junior high school or just going into high school when he first started volunteering with Stand True. Jared Lacey from the band Poetic Descent. Jared, how are we doing today?
Great, Brian. A lot better than I have been in a few months, actually.
How's your foot healing?
Pretty good. I stopped walking with the cane, got rid of the cane a couple days ago, and been doing food deliveries and stuff. Ankle still doesn't bend as much as it should, but physical therapy should take care of that in a few months.
Awesome. Yeah, well, tomorrow you won't be doing much walking if we get that foot of snow here in Ohio.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm actually supposed to be starting a job driving for Papa John's today, so we'll see if they bring me in or not.
So, yeah, I went to Kroger this morning and it's already crazy there. People going nuts, snow coming. But so, Jared, when I first moved to Troy, I know from Virginia area, I knew you from coming to speak here in Troy and did a show with, I believe, Sides of the North and a couple other bands here in Troy at your church.
Yep.
It was a long time ago. But when we moved here, were you high school age, you and your brother, when you guys helped us move in?
When I helped you move in? Yeah, probably high school age, because you first came to my church, I think I was probably 14, so it had to be a couple years after that.
Okay. Well, when we first moved here, one of the things that Stand True did a lot, I did for many, many years with Stand True and for Rock for Life, was tour music festivals and setting up a pro-life booth at music festivals, as well as, the March for Life, the Walk for Life, different events. And it was around that time that you started volunteering. You would sometimes work our booth at Cornerstone Festival. I know your band went out there to play Generator Stages. Your old band, Mayfly, say Miss May, another band from the area, but you would come along. What made you first interested in getting involved with the work of Stand True and the pro-life work that we do in general? What was it that really got you wanting to volunteer your time?
Well, I think probably first when you came to Troy Christian Church and spoke about abortion, at that point, I don't think I had ever heard of it. And the fact that you combined it with having rock bands and stuff was cool. I think maybe a couple years later, I went to Cornerstone Festival with my friend Brent Wellborn, who did a lot of your artwork. And he's the one that invited me to the show at the church in the first place.
He's the one who helped him and his wife put on that show.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So, yeah, he took me to Cornerstone when I was 15, which is the first time I'd ever been, and we camped out with maybe was it still Rock for Life then?
That
2005.
Well, 2005, I was Stand True. I started Stand True in 2003, but I know Brent had been there with Rock for Life also.
But yeah, just interacting with you and the interns a lot at that festival really made me interested in learning more, for sure.
Well, you were raised in a family that had Christian beliefs. I know your father is a strong man and very pro-life, and I'm sure that you probably, like a lot of kids, had backlash from parents when they first got involved in pro-life. That probably wasn't the case with you, knowing your dad.
No.
So, Jared, when you started, I would say this is what's probably something that the pro-life movement needs more people like you. And one of the things is, honestly, the amount of hours that you have put in volunteering for pro-life, whether it be at the March for Life, the Walk for Life, and music festivals and such. You probably, if you translated those hours to pay, would have probably about 6 months worth of a job.
Oh, that would have been
You
nice.
gave of your time freely, and
Mhm.
and you're one of those people that when you were asked to do something, when you're asked to go somewhere, you don't ever argue. You do your due diligence to do the job at the absolute best that you can do, and that was something that I always
Oh, thanks.
appreciated about you. Is when you came in to volunteer, it was, what can I do? Not, oh yeah, I want to go hang out with bands, I want to go do this. You came and you wanted to do work, and I really appreciate that, Jared. And I think that the pro-life movement, they see like me or Father Frank or Lila Rose or Kristen Hawkins or Abby Johnson and all this stuff. It's our job, but we couldn't do what we do without people like you. And I really appreciate all the work. And even though you're in a band and all this stuff, you didn't care. You would come and just carry boxes if that's what it took for us to be able to get this message out. Now, the first band that you really I started listening to your music and getting involved with was a band called Mayfly, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you playing even the local Strawberry Festival, holding up a picture of my son that said "Choose Life" on stage. You never really cared what people thought if you were to stand up for what you believe in, did you?
No, I definitely wasn't afraid to offend people if it was for the sake of spreading something a message I believe to be the truth.
I think it's funny, is Jared, you use the phrase offend people, and so many people get offended when they see a picture just of a live baby, let alone a picture of an aborted baby, but just a picture of a human being that says "choose life." People freak out and get offended. But what I find offensive is the fact that abortion happens at all. The fact that
Mm-hmm.
innocent human beings are being ripped from limb from limb, and being torn apart, which is actually, I believe, a line. Let's go ahead and listen. Tell us a little bit about your first pro-life song that you wrote, and then we'll listen to a clip. When did you write this song?
When did I write this song? It had to be at some point in my mid-20s. I mean, going to the March for Life with you a lot throughout those like 10 years or so, I got to hear a lot of speakers talk about abortion, so it was definitely on my mind a lot then, to the point where I wanted to write a song about it. And I wrote it from talking about like a young couple that had an abortion. Were trying to justify why it was okay, and then like the regret, the conviction that followed after they aborted their child.
And this is The Line That Separates by Mayfly,
Yes.
correct? All right. Let's go ahead and play a clip, maybe 30 seconds or so. I'll tell people it's a little bit harder music, but this show is Pro-Life is the New Punk Rock. But let's go ahead and play a little bit of your old band, Mayfly, The Line That Separates. Wow. I got to tell you, I still love that song to this day. I miss the band. I love your new stuff. But yeah, that was probably one of the bolder pro-life songs that's out there. And even talking about the heartbeat, especially in today's, news of what's going on with the heartbeat bill in Louisiana and Texas, and the Dobbs v. Jackson case, where the decision of Roe versus Wade literally may be dismembered. And we should find out by June. We really do believe that this Supreme Court case will be dismantled, and that babies will be protected in so many states because of this.
That's awesome.
But have you ever had anyone come and talk to you or write to you or email you after playing that song or reading the lyrics or singing that song? Have you had any conversations with people about this?
I don't know if I really have. I've seen had a few comments on YouTube that were either like, wow, that's really awesome, you're speaking up about it, or a couple people who were a bit mad about it, but I don't
And I
know.
don't understand what they're mad about, because if this is it's just speaking truth. Heartbeats are stopped, limbs are ripped from bodies. I mean, why is it that you would be mad about speaking truth? That's what I don't get. It's like, if people think abortion is this great, wonderful thing, a sacrament, so to say, why are they afraid to be called pro-abortion? Like, if somebody was
Good question.
for gun control, they'd be like, I'm pro gun control. If somebody was for LGBTQ rights, they'd be like, I'm pro LGBTQ rights. But for some reason, when it comes to abortion, they have to whitewash it. They have to find a word that seems soft and nice and palatable, like choice, because they don't want to say, I'm pro abortion. And the reason for that is there's a stigma, as there should be, on abortion. And all you do in that song, to me, is point out facts. Point out facts. What are your thoughts on that, Jared?
I guess going back to like the one negative comment I saw on the song, it was just they were afraid it would do further psychological damage to women who've already had abortions or something.
And that's something, Jared, that as the many years that you've been involved with us, know very well. One of our other ministries that part of our family at Priest for Life is Rachel's Vineyard.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing this is the largest post-abortion or after-abortion healing ministry in the world, is Rachel's Vineyard. And it's a big part of, I don't think you've probably ever worked one of our booths where we didn't have a lot of stuff about Rachel's Vineyard on the booth.
Yeah.
It's something that we truly believe very strongly in, is not to condemn these women that have been through it, but to show them the grace of God and how much he loves them and how much he will forgive them 100%, wipe their sins white as snow. And I know that you've worked our booth many, many, many times, at different events. I guess I wonder, Jared, because I look at that and people will make that comment, well, you might offend someone, you might do that. But the fact is, I can't even begin to count how many times at a booth or an event where somebody has come up and told us that because of our booth, because of a brochure that they've read, because of talking to someone at our booth, they ended up changing their mind about abortion. And I know you've been there when that's happened. And to think about that, that's a life. That's a human being alive. I think probably one of my favorites, and there's so many, and it's hard to pick one, but there's one, and I don't remember if you were there. I think you may have been. We were at Soul Fest. And that day it had flooded. It literally, like, we were standing in about 8 inches of water behind our booth. All of our boxes up on plastic tubs, hoping the tubs don't leak into the T-shirts, trying to keep the mud off the booth. But people are still coming through the booth and still picking up literature. And this young woman walks up to me, and he's like, Bryan, you don't remember this, but I would say about 2-3 years ago, I came to your booth to argue with you, and I was trying to debate you. And then at the end, I told you that nothing you said matters, and I'm going to go and I'm going to have an abortion, and nothing you can do will ever change my mind. And this was about 3 years later, and she's like, I'd like you now to meet my daughter.
That's awesome.
And she had this little girl with her. And she said, Bryan, I left that booth so angry at you because I knew you were right. And we ended up taking her and that little girl on the main stage at Soul Fest, where I gave a short talk and told the crowd about the importance of us standing up, because you never know. So if somebody's going to be offended or somebody's going to be upset because they see something or whatever, you know, we're not promised to never be offended. Like that's not something that's some biblical truth. You never have to be offended. I'm offended by a lot of things, but I also know how to put on my big boy pants and move on in life. The amount of times, we've had our van tire slashed and
Oh yeah.
windows smashed out, and people call me the craziest things, but I don't care because I know that what we're doing is right and that babies are living. No, I don't set out to purposely make someone feel bad. That's not what we're doing. And I know, Jared, you as a human, we joke about you actually. A lot of people, because we live in the same town, and you're known as probably the most honest person we know. Like you don't. I've never seen you say a mean thing to another human being. I've never seen you say a mean thing behind another human being's back. I just don't believe that's how you're built. You always look for the positive and you always look for something nice to say. So when people say that about you, I just kind of laugh because I know you're not out there trying to offend people. With writing that song, what do you think your goal was? What were you hoping to get out of putting that song out?
Well, I was just thinking about a line later in the song, like early in the song, it's called The Line That Separates. And the line that separates is two words, child and consequence. And it says that line is washed away in that couple's mind. They think a child equals a consequence. And we know biblically it talks about children being a blessing from God. And at the end of the song, I say, if they would only repent and leave this sin behind, then the line that separates them from God would be washed away. They'd be reconciled to God. So it's just that idea of anyone who's had an abortion or is thinking about it would actually see how much God loves them and how much God loves their child. And that was kind of the point of the song in the end.
Excellent. So let's go ahead. You have a new band now.
Yes.
You have a new band out. And tell us a little bit about this band.
So Poetic Descent is me and my drummer, Adam, who was in Mayfly. We started around 2017. The band name Poetic Descent actually comes from my first name, Jared, because in like the biblical Hebrew meaning of the name Jared is to descend. And it, in some footnotes, it points back to Genesis 6, where it talks about the sons of God descending to earth and essentially creating the Nephilim, the giants. So I'm kind of a sci-fi nerd in that sense, and stuff like that in the Bible really captures my attention. So that's where the name comes from. It's about giants.
Well, we're gonna play a clip real quick. Play about 30 seconds of one of the songs from Poetic Descent. Then tell us a little more about that song.
Okay.
So let's go. What's the song we're about to hear, Jared?
This is Close Encounter.
All right, Close Encounter by Poetic Descent. Awesome. Love. Was that your brother on guitar?
No, that is a guy named Jason Elam.
Okay.
He actually filmed the music video. He has a company called Agape Media out of the Dayton, Ohio area. If anybody ever needs video done.
All right. Very cool. Did he do Collie's video?
I have no idea.
Okay. I didn't know. I saw the big earrings and it wasn't clear. I wasn't sure if that was your brother in there. I know he's played music with you also.
Yeah, we used to play music a lot. I've been trying to get him to play for this band, but it hasn't happened yet. But yeah, that was Close Encounter. Like I said, I'm a sci-fi nerd. And the music was kind of inspired by the scene in Close Encounters of the Third Kind where they're playing the keyboards and then the UFO plays the sound back. And then the lyrics came from the X-Files, like "I want to believe and the truth is out there." Those two phrases are in that show a lot. But
When I
yeah.
think of Close Encounters, I just think of a big plate of mashed potatoes and trying to carve a. But all right, so Poetic Descent, you guys are playing around. I know I've seen that there's a few festivals coming up in the spring, I think, and you guys are playing at Poetic Descent. I know TikTok, probably Instagram, Facebook, all that. People can find out more about your music. What about your YouTube channel where people can watch some videos?
I believe that's might be at Poetic Descent at this point.
Well,
I
you
can't
just
remember if I
Google search
changed
it
it.
also. Excellent. So Jared, like I said, you've come to the March for Life with us. You've been to the West Coast Walk for Life with me to help me out, which is kind of a crazy because it's like you fly in the next morning, you're up, you do a booth for an hour and a half, pack up, walk, and you're out of there. Now, what would you tell me? Maybe one or two of your favorite memories of working a booth, whether it's the Walk for Life, March for Life, a music festival, conversation you've had. I know if you were to pick your number one favorite memory, it's probably going to In-N-Out Burger in San Francisco. But let's stick to the
booth. Yeah, I was gonna say it is just funny. First of all, because I went to San Francisco with you twice a few years ago, a couple of years, and the last time I went, little did I know I would be going back to California, but to San Diego a few months later to meet the woman who's now my wife, because I met her online like probably right after I got back from San Francisco with you. So
that's definitely a memory. That's a good memory. But what about working the booth? Maybe a conversation. Some of the past interns. You have friendships now that have gone back 15 years and longer from that time.
Yeah, man. I'm trying to think of something specific. For me, it was just interesting because I was raised Protestant. I was immersed in a very Catholic culture going to the March for Life, which was new to me. And a lot of your interns also identified with that faith. So just it challenged me just being at the booth, talking to them about what they believed versus what I believed and rethinking some things.
I think the pro-life movement, honestly, Jared, has probably been one of the greatest bridges between Protestant and Catholic churches and people as we have seen this common enemy, abortion. We have seen something that is so evil and so destructive that we have come together and realized we all love Jesus. And that's what the key message is. And yes, we have different thoughts and opinions on different things and doctrines and such. But when I look at you, I see someone who I know is a sinner who loves God, and you're very open and very honest about what goes on in your life. And I think that's what makes you one of my most trusted people. I know that there are very few people in the world I could hand a bag of $10,000 cash to after a big giant music festival, and I know that you're not going to do anything but get that to where it belongs. Not saying I've handed you 10,000, but there's been a lot of money and different stuff from booths and stuff. But you're somebody that I know that loves God with all their heart, and I'm so excited that God has blessed you with an amazing young lady, your wife now, and that's so exciting. But yeah, definitely. I think that bridge between Protestant and Catholic that's happened in the music industry. You have people like Matt Maher who started music festivals, and now I talk to artists. I was a couple weeks ago with Mike Donaghy of 10th Avenue North, and we were coming back from the airport for the March for Life. He played our event there, and he talked about how one of his best friends is Matt Maher, and how that has really bridged the gap in the music industry also. And I think that when God's people can come together and unite together for something this good, we see an amazing movement. And I do believe that we see that in the pro-life movement. people that we probably normally would never just go hang out with.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I remember I guess he would have been a Catholic monk. The bearded guy had a robe on, dark brown robe, came up to me one time when I was working the booth and was like asking me if I liked POD. And that just like totally blew me away because just the way they dress, it makes me think they're from like, they have the mindset of living hundreds of years ago. I never thought I could relate to somebody dressed like that in that way.
well, and then also some of our interns have been what we would call the most clean cut people that we've ever had. Like I've had interns that had never listened to a rock song before in their life, but yet they were willing to go out and tour rock music festivals because they believed in the message so much. And you'd see our team, like we'd have people like me, full sleeves, and you, and then you'd have people wearing the preppiest clothes and just the but we all worked together so well, and I think it was amazing. It was a unifying time. And then with that, I'm sure is Father Frank probably one of the first priests you ever sat and had a conversation with.
Yeah, maybe one of the only one, maybe the only one at this point.
But he wasn't sitting there trying to like get you to pray to Mary and trying to. No, he was just interested in you as a human being and why you do what you do.
Yeah, I appreciated that. I felt really comfortable around him.
Yeah, he was one of the. I used to sit at the Hyatt Regency before we changed hotels. If you remember the old hotel for the March for Life.
Yes.
I used to sit in the lobby and just ask him questions and talk to him, and it was just amazing because he was just always so friendly and just willing to sit and have a conversation, and it was amazing. But he's somebody that taught me a lot about God and about loving each other. So, Jared, we're actually almost out of time. I've got about 3 minutes left, and I want to talk about a couple things at the end. But one of the things that I always do is I ask our guests if they would be willing to close us in prayer.
Sure.
So what I'm going to do is ask you to go ahead and close us in prayer. I'm going to say a few words after that, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Dear God, I just thank you for, first of all, the friendship I've had with Bryan for over a decade now, and just all the work he's done with just helping people understand the value of life, especially life in the womb, and how much you love those children and love us no matter what choices, how much we've rebelled against you. I just pray you'll continue the work that he's started as it spreads throughout the interns he's worked with, and even through my music and my ministry, that you'll continue to inspire songs from other artists as well to share the pro-life message. But I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Well, everybody, it's been an amazing time having Jared here. Like I said, I've worked with Jared since he was 13, 14 years old. And how old are you now, Jared?
I will be 32 on Saturday.
32 on Saturday. Well, happy birthday.
Thank
birthday. You. Anyway, we're excited about the show. We're excited about that. I hope everybody will check out Jared's music. Look up Poetic Descent. Give them a like. Follow Jared on TikTok. I know that your TikTok's kind of new and starting to grow. I really like what you're putting out there. Also, please follow me on social media. TikTok at Bryan Kemper, Instagram at Bryan Kemper, Facebook, Twitter. And if you want to, there you go, one of our shirts. But also my new book, Pro-Life is the New Punk Rock, which you can get at prolifeproducts.org. This is a history of the youth pro-life movement, also sort of my life story coming out of a life of drugs and living on the streets and coming to Christ. But Jared, again, thank you for being on this. Most people, like if you would have tuned into a pro-life show 20 years ago, would have thought that we were the other side. And what's amazing is seeing all of the young pro-life people at the march. Every year it's getting younger and younger and even more radical, more the term pro-life is the new punk rock, Jared. I know we're going a little longer, but it's funny to me because you got Neil Young who's saying, keep on rocking in the free world. And, and Rage Against the Machine, who are like, blank you, I won't do what you tell me, are now the norm, going along with everything that the news is pushing and everything. And it's hilarious that being pro-life now really is punk rock. It really is anti-establishment. But anyway, everybody check out Poetic Dissent's music. See you guys next week. This is Bryan Kemper with Pro-Life is the New Punk Rock.